Yiping expresses his shock and frustration, realizing he has transmigrated just like a character from a web novel. After 9 years of relentless effort, he believed he had finally completed his studies, only to discover at that very moment that the world was actually about cultivation. He becomes distraught, wailing about the 9 years he's been through and telling whoever is messing with him to stop. He screams that he doesn't want to study anymore now that he knows he can cultivate immortality. But then he pauses, realizing that transmigration and cultivation are the typical start of a fantasy novel. He concludes that his talent must be terrifyingly strong. The scene changes to a spirit examination assembly, where a stone tablet declares that he has no spiritual root, dashing his hopes. Dejected and wanting to go back to Earth, he laments that this transmigration is nothing like the novels described. As he loses the will to live, a man appears behind him, asking if he wishes to cultivate immortality. The man, who is Taoist Taehua, the sect leader of the Qingyun Dao sect, sits before his disciple, Su Changyu. Taoist Taehua tells Changyu that he has a mission for him, explaining that their small, insignificant sect is facing a crisis. The higher-ups have issued a decree to ban inferior sects like theirs, unless they can gather 8 stable disciples within a year and get promoted to a 3rd-grade sect. Su Changyu notes that they just need one more person, but the sect leader explains it's not that easy, recounting his visit to the Spirit Examination Assembly, where all the sects were desperately snatching up disciples with outrageous offers. He describes how they shamelessly used honey traps to lure in new recruits. Despite the competition, he managed to pick one up, a young man named Yiping. He tells Changyu that although Yiping is a complete newbie with no spiritual roots, he is a good person and, more importantly, willing to work without a salary. Taoist Taehua worries that once Yiping figures out how weak their sect is, he'll run away, but he has a brilliant plan. The plan is to have Changyu and the other disciples take turns fabricating incomprehensible martial arts techniques to teach Yiping, stalling for time until the sect is secure. Su Changyu scoffs, thinking this is just a matter of faking it, and asks his master if he knows the nickname his fellow disciples gave him, Trash Disciple. He then proclaims that when it comes to showing off, he is second to none in the vast land of Qingzhou. He laughs, saying this mission is his specialty. The master, questioning if this is something to be proud of, tells Changyu that as long as he can hold Yiping off for a year, it will be fine. But Changyu declares that a year is too shallow a goal. He boasts that with just a small move, he can make the pure loser admire only the Green Cloud sect for the rest of his life. With immense confidence, he states that if he can't finish the mission, he'll eat his sword raw with sauce. The master agrees to escort him back with his sword. Su Changyu reflects that the him of today is no longer the little disciple who needed his master's guidance. He performs a flashy gesture, creating a dazzling display of blue energy with his sword, which shocks his master. The master wonders what kind of sword-wielding technique this is, as Changyu is just a mediocre swordsman who hasn't mastered a single set of techniques in 10 years. Changyu, however, couldn't hold back and just wanted to show off a little, admitting he doesn't actually know any sword techniques and still needs his master to send him off. Later that night, atop the back mountain, Su Changyu waits for Yiping, having deliberately chosen the location to create a powerful atmosphere. He sneezes from the cold as he sees Yiping approaching. Yiping arrives, thinking to himself that the mountain is so high and that immortals truly are extraordinary. Su Changyu stands dramatically on the cliff's edge, his back to the newcomer. Seeing the imposing figure silhouetted against the sky, Yiping is instantly awestruck, wondering if this is a sword immortal. His mind races as he thinks that a sect willing to accept a useless person like him should be a bad one, yet it has such an extraordinary-looking disciple. He concludes that this must be a super hidden world sect in disguise, where every member is a powerhouse. He feels it seems entirely possible. He recalls how, when he first followed his master into the sect, he was struck by its overwhelming sense of dilapidation, but now he finds it suspicious. He reasons that a cultivation sect shouldn't be so run down, and even in such a ruined state, every corner was spotlessly clean, which he now sees as highly suspicious. He concludes they must be deliberately keeping a low profile to hide from the world, which makes perfect sense to him. He is completely taken by Su Changyu's unmatched bearing and thinks that even among 3 million sword immortals in the heavens, they would have to bow their heads before him. Su Changyu, overhearing this, is inwardly pleased and tells the kid he has some nerve and that he likes his style. He thinks to himself that he didn't expect to get such a perfectly pretentious poem for free just by coming out to meet him. And since his new junior brother praises him so highly, it would be rude not to return the favor. Su Changyu prepares to put on a show. He tells Yiping that although he isn't prepared with much, he will grant him an opportunity and a fortune. With a wave of his hand, he claims that the breeze is a secret fortune-bestowing art capable of greatly increasing one's cultivation talent. Yi Ping is amazed, thinking that a single breeze increasing talent is something no ordinary sect could do. He thanks his senior brother profusely for his kindness, while Su Changyu feels the strain in his arm from using too much force. Su Changyu internally scoffs at the idea of a fortune-bestowing art, knowing it was just a breeze, and then tells Yi Ping that before he teaches him the way of the sword, he must first ask a question. Yi Ping is ecstatic, recognizing this as a classic trope from novels where a peerless master asks a profound question before imparting a secret art. Su Changyu asks Yi Ping what he thinks is the ultimate of the sword. Su Changyu internally congratulates himself on such a pretentious question, confident that no matter what Yi Ping answers, it will be wrong, allowing him to demonstrate his own unfathomable understanding. Yi Ping, however, sees this as a test from a hidden master, believing the simple question must contain an unparalleled realm within. He thinks for an entire hour, much to Su Changyu's annoyance, who is starting to freeze on the mountaintop. Finally, Su Changyu impatiently demands an answer. Yi Ping states his belief that the ultimate of the sword is a single blade of grass that cuts down the sun, moon, and stars. Su Changyu is stunned into silence by this answer. He thinks to himself that he has practiced the sword for 20 years, and the strongest he's seen could at most cleave a mountain, making a blade of grass cutting down celestial bodies a whole new level of pretending. Yi Ping asks if his answer was too exaggerated, but Su Changyu is inwardly thrilled, thinking the line is excellent and deciding to take it for himself. Outwardly, he tells Yi Ping that he is aiming too high and that steadiness is key on the path of cultivation. To continue the act, Su Changyu decides to leave Yi Ping with a sword mark on the cliff face. He strikes the rock, creating a simple crack, and tells Yi Ping that this mark is ordinary if one calls it ordinary, but if called extraordinary, it contains the strongest sword intent in the world. He instructs him to comprehend it, saying how much he learns depends on his perception, and that he will check on him in 7 days. Su Changyu approaches his junior sister, asking what she thinks of their new junior brother's talent. Su Changyu finds his junior sister peeking and tells her they need to talk. He decides to test his newly acquired pretentious line on her, asking if she knows just how strong the ultimate of the sword is. She is confused by his sudden seriousness, wondering what swordsmanship has to do with her. He dramatically declares that the ultimate of the sword is to use a single blade of grass to cut down the sun, moon, and stars. She is impressed, commenting that his pretending skills have improved again. He then asks her his real question, how long it will take their new junior brother to comprehend sword intent. She retorts that it's impossible as she herself can't even comprehend it, let alone him. She clarifies that she meant ordinary sword intent and still insists he can't do it. Meanwhile, Yi Ping stands before the cliff, looking at the ordinary crack and wondering where the so-called strongest sword intent is, beginning to suspect he was lied to. He quickly shakes off the doubt, chastising himself for thinking such nonsense, and concluding that everything before has already proven his senior brother is a master. He resolves that he simply hasn't worked hard enough and redoubles his efforts to stare at the crack. Suddenly, a figure appears in his mind, holding a longsword. The figure begins to demonstrate a series of sword techniques. The movements become clearer and clearer in his mind, like a grand bell ringing in his ears, revealing 4 sword styles and 12 sword moves. He feels as if he himself were drawing the sword and practicing, not just once, but over and over again. The demonstrations repeat, becoming faster and faster, with more and more sword moves appearing in his mind. The knowledge pours into his mind more fiercely than a flood of divine enlightenment. Yi Ping is overwhelmed, wondering what is happening, and realizes it must be his senior brother's doing. He never thought a mere breeze could raise his talent to such a terrifying level. He cries with joy, realizing that after so much bad luck, he has finally struck gold and feels guilty for ever doubting his senior brother. He tells himself to calm down as this is only the beginning and believes the sword mark still has more techniques for him to comprehend. 7 days later, at Su Changyu's residence, he opens his pretending treasure box. Elsewhere, the second senior brother complains about being exhausted from practicing. He reflects on a conversation from 7 days ago with his junior sister, where she mocked him for being lame because he's trained in swordsmanship for 10 years and still hasn't grasped sword intent. He had angrily defended himself, explaining that the 4 thunder sword technique he practices is no ordinary art, ranking in Kingzhu's top 10. He described it as a technique of ultimate rigidity and yang, divided into 4 sets for each season, capable of summoning the thunder of the 4 seasons if all are mastered. Each set is further divided into 4 minor realms, and he proudly stated he had reached proficiency in the Spring Thunder Sword, which consists of 18 techniques. His junior sister was unimpressed, noting it was just the spring set and only 18 moves. He defensively claimed his progress was elite in Kingju, pointing out on a chart how far he still had to go to master all 4 seasons. He boasted that in 100 years, he would reach perfection, and then she would see how strong he truly is. She then asked a hypothetical question. If their new junior brother were to grasp sword intent on his own, what kind of talent would that be? He laughed hysterically, telling her she sure dared to dream. He explained that in the sword path, techniques are secondary to sword intent, which can make any technique miraculous. However, the 3 great barriers of sword intent are as hard to cross as ascending to heaven, with the first being infinite sword intent. He mentioned that across all 10 nations, only one expert, the sword sovereign of Taeksu, has barely stepped into it. He declared it was absolutely impossible for their junior brother to achieve such a feat. Back in the present, Su Changyu arrives at the cliff and sees Yi Ping, who has giant dark circles under his eyes from not sleeping. Su Changyu feels a pang of guilt, realizing he looks like the bad guy for making the fool go all in on a made-up sword mark. He resolves that for the sake of the sect, Yi Ping will have to endure this, and he'll make it up to him later. Yi Ping sees him and greets him warmly. Su Changyu strikes a pose and asks how his training is going. Yi Ping excitedly reports that he has grasped it, all thanks to the opportunity his senior brother gave him. Su Changyu starts to console him, saying it's normal not to grasp it, but then freezes, processing what Yi Ping just said. He asks in disbelief what he just said, and Yi Ping confirms he has grasped it, specifying that as of this morning, he has grasped a total of 400 sword techniques. Su Changyu bursts out laughing, thinking Yi Ping is messing with him because he's never truly trained in the sword. He finds it hilarious that Yi Ping would claim to learn 400 techniques from a random crack he drew. Yi Ping is confused by his senior brother's cold laugh, wondering if it's because he only grasped a few techniques. He reasons that a master like his senior brother must know tens of thousands of techniques, making his 400 seem paltry. He sighs, lamenting that he is just too weak. Su Changyu, trying to be kind, tells him there's no need to lie, as the technique is profound and it's normal to fail. Yi Ping insists he isn't lying, that it really is 400 techniques. Su Changyu tells him to stop talking big without the strength to back it up, as no one likes that. Yi Ping argues that even if his talent is poor, it was his senior brother who gave him the opportunity, and he can manage 400 techniques. Su Changyu is slightly angered by this persistence, feeling that Yi Ping, like so many others, underestimates the difficulty of the sword path. He thinks about the pain ordinary people suffer to grow, only to be mocked for slow progress. Annoyed, he tells Yi Ping to show him the sword techniques he has supposedly grasped. He decides it's time for a little lesson, which will also help him grow. Yi Ping readily agrees. Su Changyu thinks to himself that the stubborn kid is going to get wrecked. Yi Ping draws his sword and begins to perform. His movements are lightning fast and flow like water, and in a single blink he has already performed 36 moves, leaving Su Changyu utterly speechless. Yi Ping's sword moves grew faster and more ferocious, reaching the 108th move as a clap of thunder suddenly exploded in the sky. Su Changyu was utterly stunned by the scene before him, where countless arcs of lightning gathered to form a massive, roaring thunder dragon. He was shaken to the point of suffocation, recognizing the unmistakable manifestation of the 4 Thunder Sword technique at great completion. He screamed internally that it was impossible, lamenting that his own greatest dream had been to achieve this, yet the new disciple had done it in only 7 days. But the shock was far from over. As the purple dragon faded, a new thunder dragon formed entirely from green lightning, symbolizing the great completion of the Summer Thunder Sword. Before it could even fade, an autumn thunder dragon followed right on its heels. The 2 dragons roared in unison as Yi Ping's sword grew even faster, becoming a blur. Finally, the strongest strike, the Winter Thunder Sword, also reached great completion, manifesting a colossal dragon of blue, icy energy. To Su Changyu, it felt as if the harshness of deep winter had descended, withering all life. At the 432nd move, Yi Ping finally stopped. The 7-day performance of his studies officially concluded. He had brought all 4 Thunder Swords to great completion. However, Yi Ping did not move, feeling that something was not right and that he had been relying too much on the sword itself. He had an epiphany, realizing he needed to look beyond the object and think beyond the self. He decided to try a new approach, recalling a saying that the sword of the common man was for fighting, but the sword of the Son of Heaven used all things under heaven as its blade. A golden aura erupted around him, startling Su Changyu, who couldn't believe his junior brother was having another epiphany just from demonstrating a sword move. He recognized this terrifying power as sword intent, though it only lasted for a moment before dispersing. Yiping lamented that his talent was still too poor, as the feeling was already gone. Su Changyu, however, was reeling, realizing that what he had just witnessed was the legendary infinite sword intent, a power he had only seen once before from the sword sovereign of Takesu. He knew this junior brother was a peerless genius who must not be allowed to run away, so he had to maintain his act. He told Yiping that his performance was indeed quite ordinary. Yiping, feeling embarrassed, presented a notebook of his insights during training as a small offering. Su Changyu took the notebook and began to read. The text described profound principles that Yiping believed his senior brother had been trying to teach him, linking the sword moves to concepts like, when white sand is in mud, it turns black with it. To Su Changyu, it was like gazing at the starry sky for the first time. He recognized every word, but put together, they were as vast and profound as the galaxy, and he couldn't understand a single thing. He was deeply shaken, wondering how Yiping could have possibly comprehended such deep Tao out of thin air. He felt a profound sense of sorrow for being born human compared to this monster, who had achieved in 7 days what he couldn't in a decade. He told Yiping to continue his comprehension, and that he would return in a few days. Yiping watched him leave, worried that his senior brother thought his talent was too poor, and planned to kick him out of the sect. He remembered the 50 immortal ascension gatherings he had attended where he was rejected for having no spirit root, and resolved that he must seize this chance and never let go. Meanwhile, at the sect master's residence, the old man was peacefully sipping tea when Su Changyu burst in, frantically yelling that something big had happened. He excitedly told his master that his dream might come true, as their Qingyun Dao sect was finally about to produce a dragon. The sect master was confused, so Su Changyu explained that the new junior brother in just 7 days had brought the entire Four Thunder Sword technique to great completion. The sect master was incredulous, asking if he was joking, as liars must swallow needles. Su Changyu explained that the celestial phenomenon from earlier was the sign of this achievement, which the sect master had mistaken for a nearby expert breaking through. The master was ecstatic, shouting that they had finally produced a genius, but Su Changyu warned him to calm down. The master worried that he was nearing a fated tribulation at his old age, but then considered if keeping such a genius in their poor sect would hold him back. He quickly dismissed the thought, rationalizing that it was fate that Yiping ended up with them, and that a larger sect might not be better due to jealousy and assassination plots from rivals. He decided they would tell Yiping the truth once their sect rose to a second-grade status, and until then, they must not expose their secret. The next day, the sect master was again enjoying a leisurely afternoon when Su Changyu burst in with more bad news. The master, thinking it was debt collectors again, told Su Changyu to handle it and tried to hide, but Su Changyu clarified it was something else. He showed his master a notice from the Qingzhou Sect Administration Office, stating that to prevent sham sects from deceiving people, all unranked sects must submit 10 low-grade spirit stones within 2 months to prove their legitimacy. The sect master was outraged, decrying the lack of law and the oppression of the weak. He knew that 10 spirit stones was a fortune, equivalent to 10 taels of gold. When asked how many spirit stones the sect possessed, the master held up a hand. Su Changyu hoped it meant 70 spirit stones or at least 70 taels of gold, but the master shamefully admitted it was 70 copper coins. He explained that the sect's savings had been invested in a cultivation fund that promised high returns, but the organizers ran off with all the money, leaving him scammed. Su Changyu was certain their sect was truly finished this time. Just as the master declared he would venture into the dangerous silent forest mountains to gamble for their future, a brilliant blue light erupted from the direction of Yiping's residence. 7 days later, at the back cliff, Su Changyu watched Yiping practice, realizing the celestial phenomenon from before had indeed been another breakthrough. He felt immense pressure, knowing he couldn't keep up his act for long at this rate. Yiping greeted him, reporting that he had now fully comprehended all 1,460 sword moves. Su Changyu, feeling incredibly sour, decided he had to brag even bigger to maintain his image. He told Yiping that sword moves were only the beginning, followed by sword momentum and then sword intent. To Yiping's question about his own realm, Su Changyu declared that he had just stepped into the legendary first level of the Supreme Sword Path, Infinite Sword Intent. Yiping was in awe, exclaiming that the name alone sounded incredible and that his senior brother was truly a hidden master. He vowed to work hard to reach that level himself someday. He then asked if he could paint a portrait for his senior brother to express his gratitude. An hour later, Yiping finished the painting. Su Changyu took the scroll, and as he unrolled it, his eyes widened in shock. The painting depicted the evening glow over the Qingyun mountain range with vivid, lifelike detail. But the most eye-catching part was the figure of Su Changyu himself. whose side profile captured the fierce and mighty aura of a sword immortal, so powerful it felt as if he would leap out of the painting. Just as Su Changyu was marveling at the excellent artwork, he heard his master's voice transmitted to him, announcing that he had thought of a way to save their sect and to come quickly. While Su Changyu pondered what solution could possibly exist, the scene shifted to the Teiyu Sword Sect, one of Qingzhu's 3 great sects. At their sword comprehension cliff, disciples sat meditating before a series of sword marks left by an ancestor. Suddenly, one disciple, Zhu Heng, leaped up, shouting that he had finally comprehended it, achieving great completion of the Spring Thunder Sword. His peers were in awe, calling him one of Qingzhu's top 10 sword geniuses for achieving in 1 year what was said to take a genius 3 years. An elder praised him, predicting he might even take first place at the upcoming Qingzhu Sword Dao Conference. Another elder scoffed, reminding him that Qingzhu was full of hidden masters, and it was too soon to claim victory. They continued to bicker until a third elder intervened, revealing that the sect master had ordered them to secure a spot in the top 10 no matter what, because the top 10 would receive a token to enter the legendary Teixuan Sword Tower. The pile of junk is all they have to save their sect, but the master laments that there's no way to make money from it, while his disciple, Su Changyu, questions if these scraps are his proposed solution. The master declares their last resort is a pawn shop. Su Changyu refuses to go, saying it's too shameful to pawn off their sect's finest treasures, which he begs his master to stop calling junk. The master insists, saying a dead horse must be treated like a living one, and pleads with his good disciple to help him just one last time. As they gather the items, the master snatches a rolled-up painting. Su Changyu objects, explaining his junior brother gave it to him, but the master is adamant, questioning how he has time for art when the sect is about to collapse and declaring every coin counts. They arrive at the Leikai pawn shop and are greeted warmly by an employee who asks if they are there to buy or sell. The master proudly proclaims they are selling top-quality items. The employee examines their pile, his initial flattering demeanor souring as he realizes it's nothing but junk. He is shocked to find even erotic books among the items, which causes the master to panic, realizing he accidentally brought a limited edition photo album of a courtesan. He snatches it back, declaring it absolutely not for sale, even if the sect collapses. The shopkeeper offers a mere 10 taels of gold for the entire lot. The master tries to haggle, pointing out the supposed quality of a seat cushion, but the shopkeeper is unmoved, telling him to sell it elsewhere. The master's price rapidly drops to 5 taels. As a mortified Su Changyu tries to leave, the shopkeeper stops them, asking to see the painting. Upon unrolling it, he is stunned to see it is painted on genuine Ziyang rice paper, material so valuable that he accuses them of being rich nobles toying with his shop. Realizing its worth, the shopkeeper confirms the paper alone is worth more than 10 taels of gold and calls over another person to consult. After waiting an hour for the old shopkeeper to appraise the item, they are told that anyone who could bring in such a piece is no amateur, and he asks them to name a sincere price. Su Changyu is silenced by his master, who, sensing a misunderstanding he can exploit, confidently states his price. Believing they are in a battle of courage, the master bluffs 50 taels, causing Su Changyu to panic at his greed, only for the shopkeeper to counteroffer 5,000 taels, leaving them both stunned. The master is momentarily triumphant until Su Changyu stops him, utterly bewildered. The master asks what he just said, and the shopkeeper confirms the offer of 5,000 taels, assuring them they never joke about business. The shopkeeper repeats the staggering sum, and the master confirms it. Not a single coin less. Su Changyu grabs his master, begging him to be reliable for once. The old shopkeeper reveals that such a price is not impossible for a work by the famed Kinglian hermit. The master is internally reeling, having bluffed his way into a fortune, and decides to play along to gather more information. The shopkeeper explains that the Kinglian hermit is hailed as the #1 scholar in Jin Nation, whose unprecedented style has sparked a cultural renaissance, though the artist himself has mysteriously vanished. The master is shocked into silence, realizing they are talking about his own foolish little disciple, Yi Ping. The shopkeeper then points out a flaw. Because the painting is a portrait and not one of the artist's famed landscapes, its value is significantly lower. Su Changyu laughs awkwardly, having thought his good looks would add value, while his master despairs over the tens of thousands of taels they've just lost. The shopkeeper makes a final offer of 10,000 taels, which the master immediately accepts without haggling. Leaving the shop with a full 10,000 taels in banknotes, the master celebrates wildly, shouting that they are rich and the sect is saved. He then immediately turns on Su Changyu, berating him for drawing a portrait and costing them a fortune. The master quietly wonders about Yiping's true background. He decides they will not pry into their junior brother's secrets, instead resolving to repay his contribution with a grand gift, a visit to the most expensive shop in the city, the mysterious Origin Pavilion. Su Changyu is hesitant, but his master insists they must spare no effort in cultivating their genius disciple. Inside the opulent shop, they are informed that a first-grade manual costs over 100,000 taels. Su Changyu is floored by the price, and the attendant calling it cheap, his sense of reality warped by the wealth around him. The master, undeterred, asks to buy only the introductory volume of a manual. He explains to a skeptical Su Changyu that for a monster of comprehension like their junior brother, an introductory volume is more than enough. They choose the most powerful and expensive option, the Riverflow Sword Technique, for 9,000 taels. The master spends nearly all their money on the single volume and some pills, weeping dramatically as he hands over the banknotes. Later, he takes Su Changyu to a street stall selling cheap, nonsensical cultivation manuals by weight, claiming it's a treasure spot. After haggling, he buys a stack of books with ridiculous titles, grimacing at their terrible quality and vowing he'd eat snot in public if anyone could actually cultivate from them. Back at the Sect, the master lays out his plan. Su Changyu will quickly learn the basics of the real Riverflow sword technique, then pretend to be a profound master while stalling Yiping with the fake, stall-bought manuals. Su Changyu doubts the plan, worried Yiping's talent might even work on the fake books, which makes his master laugh hysterically. The master then reveals a new goal. He wants Yiping to participate in the upcoming Qingzhou Sword Conference. Su Changyu vehemently objects, arguing that Yiping has no inner power and sending him to a real life-or-death tournament would be suicide. The master dismisses his concerns and tells him to keep it a secret. A short while later, Su Changyu finds Yiping practicing and is instantly struck with jealousy, seeing his junior brother has already mastered sword momentum. He approaches Yiping and, feigning concern, asks if he's bored. When Yiping enthusiastically agrees, Su Changyu presents him with one of the fake manuals, calling it the ancient god-demon art. Yiping is overcome with awe, believing such a domineering name could only belong to a peerless technique from a true hidden sect. Su Changyu weaves a tale about finding the body-refining manual in an ancient ruin, suggesting it's perfect for Yiping given his poor spiritual root, then quickly excuses himself before his lies are exposed. That night, Yiping prepares to study the new manual, but forces himself to first consolidate his existing sword momentum. Meanwhile, Su Changyu struggles immensely with the real, yet introductory, Riverflow sword technique, unable to understand it at all. After half a day, Yiping masters the 4 Thundersword momentum and prepares to tackle sword intent. He feels his senior brother gave him the new manual at the perfect time to prevent him from rushing and making a mistake. He opens the ancient god-demon art. The book's grandiose text describes the ultimate power of body cultivation, culminating in a challenge. Only those with great will, perseverance, and wisdom can master it. Yiping readily accepts the challenge, but is taken aback when he sees the first technique is just a diagram of an incredibly embarrassing pose. Despite his hesitation, he trusts his senior brother and resolves to master it. Elsewhere, the author of the manual, a woman known as Fairy Mo, complains that her book has sold less than 3 copies. 3 days later, Yiping has made no progress, having spat blood 3 times in his attempts to comprehend the ridiculous diagram. Believing his own talent is lacking, he redoubles his efforts, convinced that persistence is key. He begins to theorize about the diagram's deeper meaning, recalling concepts from his past life about the 3 eyes, including the Dharma eye, which perceives the essence and laws of things. He realizes he must look beyond the superficial pose and strive for a higher level of understanding. As dawn breaks, he gazes at the sun, a flicker of comprehension finally igniting in his mind. Yiping contemplates the heavens, musing that ordinary people see only the sky, but the true heavens are one's innate heart. He realizes that Buddhas and demons see beings differently because each has a unique heart. He exclaims to his senior brother that he finally understands. He explains his epiphany. The manual meant that a unique god or demon resides within every being, and one only needs to look inward to find it. He chastises himself for being foolish and nearly missing this sudden enlightenment, realizing that looking at the sky was a misdirection. The true act of observing the heavens, he concludes, is to transform one's heart into eyes to perceive the world within. He resolves to seek and find the god or demon in the deepest recesses of his soul. As a breeze passes, his eyes snap wide open, revealing a vision of a colossal, fiery, godlike warrior surrounded by countless weapons. He exclaims that he was right and wonders if this incredibly powerful being is his god or demon. In the ruins behind the 10 Nations Academy, two cultivators on a rocky outcrop under a starry sky observe the celestial phenomenon. One exclaims their divine being is descending, and that heaven has not forsaken their righteous path. His senior brother scolds him, telling him to control himself, as his attitude makes him look more like a demon than a disciple of the righteous path. The younger disciple apologizes for his excitement. The senior brother dismisses the excitement, stating that celestial phenomena are never precise and that the righteous path would have perished long ago if they relied solely on them. The younger disciple starts to protest, but his senior brother acknowledges his point and suggests they observe a bit longer. He concludes that if it is truly gold, it cannot remain hidden. Inside the great Zir imperial palace, a consort informs the emperor that the falling stars are a celestial phenomenon of his reign. The emperor asks what he would do if a divine being truly descended, but not within his kingdom. He declares that he would simply seize it, as the entire world will belong to great Zia, let alone a mere divine being. On the demonic beast ice plane, a massive, dark beast emerges from the ice, transforming into a muscular, white-haired demon who notes the descent of a divine being with interest, remarking that the demon race must double their efforts. At Chang Yu's residence, he groans in frustration, exclaiming that he's sick of looking at his cultivation manual and still can't understand a thing. He curses whoever invented cultivation and worries that while he's used to his own inability, his master will be a problem, imagining the greedy old geezer demanding the return of his 10,000 taels. Meanwhile, Yiping sighs, wondering what's wrong with him lately as his mood sinks into melancholy at midnight, calling it midnight depression syndrome. He stares at the moon, questioning the point of being alive. From a distance, two figures watch him. One wonders what's wrong with their senior brother, who always stares at the stars alone at this time, questioning if something is troubling him. He asks his companion, the Sect's second senior brother Zhu Luocheng, for his opinion. Zhu, realizing that this is his own unique body cultivation method. In a grand hall, a white-haired sect master announces to his subordinates that he has summoned them for a great matter. An elder asks what has happened, wondering if it's related to the Tai Xuan Sword Tower token. The sect master says no, explaining that it is a far greater matter and asks if they are aware of the 10 Nations Academy. One person asks if the legendary academy is recruiting again. The sect master explains that the Jin Nation's imperial court will once again send special envoys to select talented individuals for the academy, and he already knows who the envoy will be. A painting is unrolled, revealing a stunningly depicted swordsman, prompting an elder to recognize the style of the Kinglian hermit. They wonder if the person in the painting is the envoy. The sect master points out that the Kinglian hermit vanished half a year ago and couldn't have joined a small sect given his fame. He reveals his knowledge of a peerless swordsman in the Jin Nation court, a former genius of the 10 Nations Academy who was expelled and became the Inspector General. This Inspector General has also stepped into the realm of sword intent, and since the painting appeared in the Jin Nation, he is likely the subject. The sect master presents the painting, which emanates a palpable sword intent, as proof. He explains that since the Kinglian hermit is no cultivator, the only possibility is that the person in the painting condensed his supreme sword intent and imprinted it onto the scroll, confirming the man in the painting must be the envoy. The elders praise the sect master's divine insight. The sect master adds that the Inspector General is known to disdain wealth and women, preferring to roam the world, and that he acquired this painting in White Fruit Ancient City from someone who matched the envoy's description. He instructs them not to deliberately curry favor, but to respectfully seek guidance if they encounter him. That night, Yiping decides against practicing the ancient god-demon body refining art, deeming it too risky. He thinks he should ask his senior brother about using pills to stimulate spiritual energy. A voice calls his name, and a man introduces himself as the Sect's second senior brother, Zhu Luocheng. Yiping is surprised and greets him respectfully. Zhu Luocheng explains that his senior brother has been busy, so he has come to teach Yiping the art of alchemy. He tells Yiping not to be too disheartened by his senior brother's temperament, as it's his first time teaching. He reassures Yiping that just because his sword talent isn't good doesn't mean his other talents are lacking. Yiping declares he will work harder to make his senior brother acknowledge him. Zhu Luocheng smiles and says it's time to begin the alchemy lesson. As he begins, a brilliant green light emanates from his hands, filled with profound energy. He asks Yiping what he believes the strongest alchemist to be. The question feels familiar to Yiping, reminding him of his senior brother's question about the sword, and he wonders if Zhu Luocheng is also a hidden master. Yiping answers that the strongest alchemist stands above all else, as a single pill can drive powerhouses into a frenzy and even defy the heavens to change fate. Zhu Luocheng dismisses this as too shallow and tells him to think bolder. Yiping then suggests the strongest pill must be one that can improve one's constitution, turning someone with the worst aptitude into a gifted cultivator. Zhu Luocheng again says this is too shallow and reveals that the truly strongest alchemist no longer refines pills, but refines the heavens and the earth themselves, with every pill becoming its own world. Yiping is stunned by the concept of refining the heavens and earth, with every single pill being a world, a terrifying idea he'd never encountered even in the web novels he read before transmigrating. He feels fired up again, realizing the pill Dao can be as powerful as the sword Dao. He asks if Zhu Luocheng has reached this realm, and his second senior brother vaguely replies something to that effect. Yiping is convinced he's in the presence of another hidden master, and that everyone in his sect must be a peerless expert. Zhu Luocheng internally notes that his improv was pretty good, but worries he's spending too much time with Su Changyu. He then clarifies that since Yiping has never touched the pill Dao before, he will start with the most basic fundamentals. He explains that all medicine contains poison, but he will teach Yiping the method of poisonless pill refinement, which has no side effects. The secret, he claims, is to not use any medicinal ingredients at all. When Yiping expresses his confusion, Zhu Luocheng tells him that he only disbelieves because he doesn't understand, comparing it to a mortal not believing in sword immortals who can cleave the gates of heaven. Yiping understands, comparing his limited perspective to a frog at the bottom of a well. Zhu Luocheng explains that spiritual energy is pure, but becomes tainted by the 5 elements during a herb's growth, creating filth. Poisonless pill refinement bypasses this by directly condensing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth into the ultimate pill. Yiping finds the logic sound. He then asks if someone like him, with no spiritual root, can take a Kai-refining pill to raise his spiritual power. Zhu Luocheng confirms it's possible, but explains that no one does it because the effect is too small and the pills are too expensive, requiring a long-term, constant supply that even large sects cannot afford. Disappointed, Yiping wonders what to do about his spiritual energy problem. Zhu Luocheng tells him it's time to begin, and he will teach him the most basic alchemy skills. In the Silent Forest Mountains, Su Changyu tells a companion not to worry about Luocheng, as he has a calm nature and strong mental endurance. Suddenly, a strange sound echoes through the forest, startling him. It's revealed to be a rabbit hopping by. He laughs at his companion's fear over a mere rat, boasting that there are no large demon beasts on the outskirts of the Silent Forest Mountains, just as a colossal crystalline monster looms behind them. The next morning, Yiping recites poetry before deciding that the most important thing is to catch up on cultivation knowledge. He heads to the library pavilion his master mentioned, impressed by its simple and tidy style, which he sees as the true demeanor of a hidden world sect. He notes the single incense stick in the burner and deduces it symbolizes that sincerity is what matters, not quantity, a sign that the sect has transcended external vanity. Inside the library, he finds shelves of manuals with grand titles like 10 Dragons, 10 Elephants, Primordial Spirit Art, and Heavenly Emperor Sword Technique, all casually placed without any protective arrays. He is overwhelmed by their power and falls in love with the place, recognizing it as the mark of a true hidden world sect, before forcing himself to calm down. The next day, he sighs, feeling like he was just getting into a good state of mind with his reading before having to start his daily practice. He now has a basic understanding of the world, surprised that mortal dynasties still hold so much power over many immortal sects. He muses that if he had known earlier, he would have just taken the imperial exams to become a court official, which would have surely given him access to cultivation resources. He then laughs, realizing that if he had done so, he would have missed the blessing in disguise of joining this hidden world sect. A cheerful voice calls out to him, and a young woman with red hair and an elaborate dress appears, introducing herself as his senior sister, Chen Lingru. Yiping is struck by her beauty. He notices he's blushing and blames it on the heat. She tells him to work hard. After a moment, she adds that after some time, she will also teach him the supreme Dao. Yiping is momentarily stunned, wondering if she too is a hidden master, but she laughs and tells him not to imagine things. He then asks if he can cultivate a manual he found, the 3,600 Immortal Aperture Arts. She confirms he can, and when he worries about Kai deviation without spiritual power, she dismisses the manual as a very basic technique. a fake sold at street stalls, assuring him it's impossible to go astray with it. As she speaks, black, shadowy energy seems to emanate from her, contrasting her casual words. Yiping, however, doesn't notice and is overcome with emotion, realizing that there's finally a way to save his spiritual roots. His senior sister, Linga, approached and asked her junior brother what was wrong. Yiping, looking at a glowing tome, replied that he was fine and had just found the cultivation method most suited for him. She was pleased and told him that from now on he should just call her senior sister Linga. After encouraging him to cultivate even harder and believe in himself, she took her leave, thinking that a quick greeting was enough to avoid giving herself away. Alone, Yiping looked down at the manual for the 3,600 immortal Aperture arts, considering it to be actually very simple. The technique explained that the human body contained countless hidden treasures, sealed within apertures, much like a demonic beast. By opening these apertures, one could absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, with each opened aperture doubling the absorption speed. Yiping realized that if he opened all 3,600, his cultivation speed would be immense. This was the perfect solution to his greatest problem, his extremely poor aptitude and lack of spiritual roots, which severely limited his ability to absorb spiritual energy. He felt confident that mastering this art would completely make up for his flaw, especially since he had already grasped the basics of the 4 Thunder Sword technique, the primordial god-demon body refining art, and second senior brother's poisonless pill refinement. The only thing he lacked now was spiritual energy itself. He could not even imagine how strong he would become once he had it, but he quickly shook off the distracting thoughts, resolving to begin cultivating the technique immediately. Elsewhere, in the Jinglin mountain range, an older cultivator named Su Changyu was in a desperate fight with a demonic beast alongside his junior, Changyu. The older man urged Changyu to escape using a burrowing talisman, but Changyu steadfastly refused to abandon him and become an ungrateful bastard. Su Changyu told him to sit tight and not move yet, preparing for a final stand. Changyu watched his master's back, wondering when it had grown to look so tall and broad, and questioning if he was hiding a secret trump card, though he doubted he could defeat an enemy 2 realms above him. Despite his doubts, Changyu felt a sense of reassurance as Su Changyu charged forward with a glowing blue sword, yelling for his opponent to take this. The attack, however, was ineffective, and Su Changyu was swatted away, landing in a pool of water with the enemy looming over him. Defeated, Su Changyu thought to himself that he had shown off enough and had no regrets dying now, prompting an exasperated Changyu to yell at him for trying to act cool at such a time. As Changyu tearfully promised to be his disciple again in the next life, Su Changyu retorted that he wouldn't want such a flashy disciple again. Suddenly, a powerful voice questioned what manner of fiend dared to act so wantonly before them, as a massive golden fist descended from the sky, obliterating the beast. The beast's master looked up in terror, recognizing the attacker's clothing. The newcomers, a group of cultivators, had arrived. A woman among them chastised Su Changyu and Changyu for their low cultivation, asking if they were in the mountains to serve themselves as snacks for demonic beasts. One of her companions recognized them as the 3rd elder of the 4 Thunder Sect from wanted posters. Su Changyu, in turn, recognized the group as the special envoys he had seen in a painting, and internally reminded himself to remain calm, as the sect master had instructed. The woman noticed the strange way the male disciples were staring at her, and briefly worried they were into men, thinking she wouldn't be able to resist. Struggling with the awkward situation, she politely greeted them as fellow Taoists and asked what they were doing there, trying not to fawn over the man she secretly admired. Su Changyu, taken aback by her question, stammered that they were just taking a stroll, making the atmosphere incredibly tense. The woman then noticed his injuries and offered him a white dew spiritual muscle pill, a valuable item, while mentally playing along with what she perceived as his role-playing. Changyu was shocked by her generosity, but Su Changyu, wary of a catch, tried to politely refuse and leave. The woman stopped them, confirming their suspicions by saying she had something to ask. She then posed a strange question. What did he believe was the true essence of the sword Dao? The question triggered Su Changyu's passive pretentiousness technique, and despite Changyu's internal pleas for him not to act cool, he couldn't resist. He picked up a single blade of grass and declared that this was the sword Dao. Confused, the woman asked him to elaborate. Su Changyu explained that the way of the sword lies in the heart, and where the heart points, the sword reaches, before abruptly stopping himself. The newcomers were stunned, and one by one, they all claimed to have gained insight from his profound words, not wanting to appear less perceptive than the others. Su Changyu was internally baffled, wondering what on earth they had gained insight into and if they were crazy for mistaking him as a sword Dao master. He quickly ended the conversation, saying how much they absorbed was up to their own comprehension and bid them farewell. As the group left, they gushed about meeting a true master. Meanwhile, back at the Dingyun Dao Sect, Yiping was meditating, having successfully located an immortal aperture in his body. His excitement quickly faded when he realized it would take a huge amount of spiritual power to activate, a resource he, with his waste spiritual root, couldn't possibly gather. He felt he was back at the starting point, musing that the simplest cultivation methods were often the most complex. He decided to approach the problem from a fundamental level, like the very first cultivator who created the Kai condensation method, aiming to understand the why behind cultivation instead of just following established paths. He resolved to seize the moment and begin his unique journey. After 7 days of no progress, however, he felt frustrated and decided to take a break by painting a landscape. His second senior brother, Luo Chen, happened upon him and, surprised by his artistic talent, asked Yiping to draw a portrait of him. Yiping happily agreed, seeing it as a way to repay Luo Chen for teaching him alchemy. He finished the portrait with incredible speed, leaving Luo Chen stunned at how handsome he looked in the drawing. Luo Chen, impressed by his professionalism, took the portrait and left, planning to show it off to their master and eldest senior brother. He briefly considered asking for a poem to be inscribed but decided against it, only to change his mind later, resolving to write one himself. Back in his dwelling, Yiping had a sudden epiphany. He understood that instead of forcefully absorbing spiritual energy, he should open his mind and allow the immortal aperture to integrate with heaven and earth, becoming one with it. As this realization washed over him, a notification appeared in his mind. Candle Dragon Immortal Aperture, which would grant ancient inheritance as it opened. Yiping was shocked, recognizing the name Zhu Jiayin, or Candle Dragon, a terrifying divine beast from his past life's myths, a master of time and space. Filled with new resolve, he decided to immediately try cultivating the god and demon art. First, he altered the painting he had been working on, parting the clouds to reveal a clear blue sky, a reflection of his own enlightened state of mind. His cultivation attempt immediately caused a disturbance. On a nearby cliff, Luo Chen noticed a thundercloud gathering and grew alarmed. He worried about the heavy rain and rushed to collect Su Changyu's treasured clothes. At Yiping's dwelling, lightning crackled around him as spiritual energy poured into his body automatically, a feat he knew was typically only possible for cultivators at the nascent soul stage. The absorption speed was unprecedented, with willing spiritual energy bypassing the refining process entirely and becoming directly usable. This was his own unique path. Despite the terrifying influx of power, only the first aperture had opened. The second remained dormant, making him wonder if the aperture was a glutton. Undeterred, he began cultivating the primordial divine demon body refining art, using his spiritual energy to connect with the power of heaven and earth and forge it into a supreme furnace. A great golden cauldron materialized above him, struck by divine hammers of purple lightning. He had succeeded, but he quickly realized the resulting power was far too strong for his current self to handle. A massive beam of energy descended from the sky, striking him as he was engulfed in a violent, crackling maelstrom of purple energy. Gritting his teeth to endure the immense force, a battered man wonders if he is going to die. His eye glows with an intense blue light as his body is racked with pain. He's then shown being overwhelmed by a wave of azure energy while fighting a red, horned beast. After being thrown back, he is engulfed in a maelstrom of fire as a serpentine dragon of flames attacks him. He is sent flying through the fiery vortex, his body contorting as he is slammed into the ground. A torrent of blue lightning then courses through his body before he finally collapses onto the cracked earth. As the trial ends, he lays still, overcome with a deep, searing pain. He writhes on the ground, thinking that it is an unbearable and unforgettable pain. Coughing up blood, his body bruised and exhausted, he then grins through the agony, admitting to himself that he actually likes it. The scene shifts to the Jinglin mountain range, where a group of disciples are talking. One asks his master if the man they met was truly the commander of the Jin nation's imperial inspectors. When the master confirms it, another disciple questions his judgment, earning a sharp rebuke. The master scolds them for being brainless, asking if they genuinely believed the man traveling with the senior was his master. The disciples realize the master and disciple dynamic must have been a disguise, which the master confirms was obvious, explaining that the senior was on a covert mission. The master further speculates that the senior may have even founded his own secret sect. He reminds them of the senior's profound words about severing the sun and moon with a single blade of grass, something far beyond a mere Kai refinement cultivator. He insists that such a powerful aura is forged through years of experience, and cannot be faked. He chastises them for their naivety, pointing out how sneaky the senior's supposed master appeared, just as that very man sneezes elsewhere, wondering who is talking about him. The master warns that their current mindset would make them easy prey for demonic cultivators and orders them to keep the matter a secret. The perspective changes to Taoist Taehua and Su Changyu at the edge of the mountains. Taoist Taehua cries out with relief that they are finally out, swearing he will never return to the cursed mountain range. They had faced numerous deadly situations after parting ways with the Four Thunder Sword Sect, and Taoist Taehua only survived thanks to a supreme-grade pill gifted by one of their elders. He laments that he nearly lost his life on what he expected to be an easy trip. Su Changyu remarks that at least his master obtained some beast materials, whereas he got nothing. Taoist Taehua complains that the materials are barely worth anything and certainly not enough to buy new techniques for the other disciples, concluding that money is too hard to earn. He muses that he will just have to shamelessly ask Yiping for another painting. This gives Su Changyu an idea, and he asks if their second senior brother might have already requested a portrait from Yiping. Taoist Taehua's eyes light up as he remembers the second brother always wanted one. He excitedly declares they must hurry back, vowing to name Yiping the god of wealth if he has indeed secured a painting. The next day, the second senior brother, Zhu Liuchen, feels his right eye twitching, getting a premonition that something bad is about to happen. Zhu Liuchen, in a good mood after a breakthrough in his alchemy, decides to check on his junior brother, Yiping. He internally scoffs at his first senior brother, Su Changyu, for being melodramatic about Yiping's supposed lack of talent. Arriving at Yiping's residence, he asks about his cultivation progress. Yiping greets him and humbly states that he has made a bit of small progress. Zhu Liuchen is taken aback, thinking that his junior brother is trying to brag about a breakthrough, and asks him to clarify what he means by small progress. Yiping explains he has made progress with the non-toxic alchemy art Zhu Liuchen taught him. Zhu Liuchen lectures Yiping on the importance of honesty, telling him not to lie about making pills. Yiping insists that he is telling the truth. Amused, Zhu Liuchen remarks that even their first senior brother wouldn't make such a bold claim, just as Yiping presents a pill as proof. Zhu Liuchen recognizes it as a gathering spirit pill and becomes angry, assuming Yiping bought it and is passing it off as his own work. He now believes he understands Su Changyu's depression. Determined to teach the boy a lesson, he challenges Yiping to demonstrate the pill-making process for him. Yiping expresses concern that it would waste his senior brother's time as it takes hours. Thinking he has caught him in his lie, Zhu Liuchen insists he has time, but is stunned when Yiping agrees to the demonstration. Zhu Liuchen smugly tells him to begin, intending to teach him a lesson he will never forget. As the hours pass, Zhu Liuchen's confident expression morphs into one of shock, then utter disbelief. Finally, Yiping calmly announces that he has finished refining the pill. Yiping presents the glowing, crystalline pill to the speechless Zhu Liuchen. Zhu Liuchen stares at the perfect pill in his hand, asking for a moment to collect himself. His mind races as he begins to suspect that Su Changyu's depression might not have been due to Yiping's lack of talent after all. Zhu Liuchen struggles to maintain his composure, but fails, screaming internally that his Tao heart has just been shattered. A concerned Yiping asks if he is all right, and Zhu Liuchen forces himself to reply that he is fine. Yiping expresses his relief, saying he was worried for a moment. Internally, Zhu Liuchen panics, convinced that something is terribly wrong. He knows that non-toxic alchemy shouldn't exist and that the pill's appearance is impossible. He recalls that gathering spirit pills become more vibrant with higher quality, yet this one is perfectly clear and larger than any recorded high-grade pill. Deciding to expose the lie by consuming it, he takes the pill and is instantly shocked to discover it is not only real but a supreme-grade spirit-gathering pill, returned to its purest form. Recalling his master's warning to never expose his own abilities, Zhu Liuchen struggles to hide his shock. He quickly makes an excuse that he has something to attend to and flees, telling Yiping to continue cultivating. A confused Yiping wonders why his senior brother left so abruptly. He decides to continue practicing, and then remembers he forgot to mention his other breakthroughs, but immediately scolds himself for his arrogance and resolves to remain humble. Back in his own residence, Zhu Liuchen has a complete breakdown. He weeps, lamenting his 10 years of fruitless effort in alchemy compared to his junior brother's success in less than a month. He screams at himself, questioning how he has the face to live and that he should have died from shame. He collapses in a fit of despair, crying that the monstrous genius of his junior brother is too much to bear. He lies on the floor, twitching, and wonders if he will die from sheer embarrassment. Later that night, Su Changyu stands alone on the azure cloud cliff, sighing about the hardships of life at the Kai refinement stage. Finding the moon desolate, he decides to channel his sorrow into a poem on Yiping's painting. Su Changyu feels inspired to turn his sorrow into poetry, pondering the perfect opening line. After trying and discarding several phrases, he finally gets an idea. He writes furiously, and upon finishing, he proudly admires what he calls a perfect quatrain. He believes the poem, which expresses his sorrow, will deeply move his senior brother. His mood slightly improved, he decides to show it to him later and packs up. As night deepens, he finds his melancholy growing and decides to stay out longer. Elsewhere, a female disciple asks a third senior brother, Wang Zhuoyu, why the second senior brother. Liuchen also sits alone on the cliff like the first. Wang Zhuoyu explains that Liuchen secretly follows trends set by their first senior brother and mentions that he saw Liuchen crying earlier, suspecting it was related to their junior brother, Yiping. The female disciple suggests Wang Zhuoyu try teaching Yiping formation arts, but he refuses and suggests others do it. She then suggests seeking help from their senior sister, but Wang Zhuoyu dismisses the idea, calling the sister's thinking bizarre. Feeling pressured, he quickly makes an excuse and runs off. The female disciple is left alone, contemplating whether she should seek out their senior sister after all. Meanwhile, Zhu Liuchen's eye continues to twitch past midnight. He tries to convince himself nothing more unlucky could happen, only to be struck with a horrifying thought of getting an undeserved beating. The next morning, a blonde-haired man arrives back at the Sect, weeping with joy that he is finally home. He cries that it feels so good to be home and swears to cherish every penny from now on, as the silhouette of a female character is teased for the next week's chapter. A distraught Su Changyu begs his master not to take him to the Jinglin mountain range again, pleading that he still wants to live a couple more years. The master slyly asks his disciple if he isn't going to visit little Yiping anyway, suggesting he could inquire if the boy has been drawing lately, and if not, find a way to make him draw. Su Changyu, blushing with indignation, tells his master that they both have dignity, thinking to himself that trying to make money off a young boy will be a stain on his record. Despite his reservations, he sighs and agrees to go for the sake of his junior brothers. The master praises him as his most doted-upon disciple, but Su Changyu simply tells him to get lost and flies away toward the Qingyun mountain range. Elsewhere, a woman with long white hair named Xiao Muxu stretches languidly, celebrating her emergence from seclusion. She breathes in the air, remarking how sweet it is, when a younger woman named Lingru flies towards her, calling her senior sister and explaining she was just about to send a voice transmission. Xiao Muxu excitedly grabs Lingru, exclaiming how adorable she is before pulling her into a tight hug to see if she has matured. Lingru, flustered, tells her to stop teasing. Xiao Muxu laughs at her shyness, compliments her developed figure, and takes a refreshing swig from a gourd, prompting Lingru to point out that their master strictly forbade her from drinking. Xiao Muxu dismisses the warning, calling alcohol a joy drug, and pulls Lingru into another hug while asking about recent events in the sect, specifically if their senior brother has formed the Spring Thunder Sword potential yet. Lingru replies that he seems to be the same, but adds that the master has taken on a new junior brother, which has angered the first and second senior brothers. Intrigued, Xiao Muxu presses for details. Lingru explains that when the new junior brother, Yiping, arrived, the seniors were tasked with teaching him swordsmanship, but his aptitude was too low for him to learn anything, causing their mindsets to collapse. Now the two of them just stand distractedly on a cliff at midnight, filled with worry. Xiao Muxu finds this hilarious and laughs, even as Lingru notes the second senior brother is also reaching his limit. Xiao Muxu advises Lingru to follow her teachings and not those of their useless brothers, before deciding to go see this new junior brother herself. Lingru watches her go, feeling reassured that everything will be fine. At Yiping's residence, Xiao Muxu arrives and sees him meditating, thinking he is a handsome youth, and that her master's choice of disciple is quite to her liking. She thinks this treasure cannot be given to outsiders, but then pauses, sensing something unusual about his aura. With a jolt of recognition, she realizes his aura is the unique physique of the Emperor Father, a concept she initially dismisses as impossible. She steps closer for a better look, wondering how two peerless geniuses could appear in the same sect at the same time. Her eyes widen as she confirms that his physique is exactly the same, something she believed was lost to ancient times. Just then, Yiping opens his eyes to find her face extremely close to his. Xiao Muxu tells him to be a good boy and let his older sister examine his body. She inwardly marvels at the situation, finding it too exaggerated that the small sect produced two absolute physiques. Yiping asks again who she is, and she calmly introduces herself as his senior disciple's sister, Zio Muksu, telling him not to be nervous. He stammers her title, recalling that the master had spoken of her, and then asks her to step back, mentioning the impropriety of physical contact between genders. She finds his blushing adorable and declares him even cuter. The intensity is too much for Yiping, who feels he can't hold on any longer and faints. Zio Muksu catches him, confirming once more that his physique is indeed that of the Father Emperor. She realizes that with him, her plan to oppose the Father Emperor might have hope, and she resolves to dedicate all her efforts to nurturing him. When Yiping awakens, she greets him. He dazedly asks what happened, and she explains that she was examining his body and noticed his yang energy had rushed to his heart from overcultivation, but reassures him it was a minor issue. The idea that she examined his entire body leaves him shocked. She confirms it, adding that she found special features and has a set of Dao arts perfectly suited for him. He immediately expresses his interest. Zio Muksu warns that her tutelage is strict, but Yiping clenches his fist, insisting he can endure any amount of suffering to learn. She leans in and slyly asks what if it is that kind of tutelage, leaving him blushing and confused. She laughs, telling him she was just teasing. He then expresses hope that she won't disdain his dull aptitude. She is surprised he calls his energy glutton physique dull and suspects their master is playing tricks. She notes that he must have undergone body reconstruction dozens of times, a fact that amazes him. She confides that she also experienced it and calls him a little lunatic for enduring such pain. She tells him to work hard, as a great trend is approaching that will reveal the world's cruelty. She warns that the human race is not the strongest and could be crushed by the demon and monster races. She promises that as long as she is there to support him, she will help him ascend to the top of the continent. As she flies away, she reminds him that with great ability comes great responsibility and urges him not to fail the era or himself. Inspired, Yiping clenches his fist, vowing to work hard and not disappoint her. Suddenly, a buzzing sound stops Zio Muksu in her tracks. She recognizes it as the demon god palace. Annoyed at their timing, she vows to kill them all, then turns back to tell Yiping she must discipline some naughty children and will leave him an imprint of the cultivation technique for now. Yiping is stunned as her aura becomes terrifyingly powerful. She creates a glowing pink imprint and sends it into his mind, telling him to cultivate on his own first. The knowledge floods his mind, and he realizes it is a supreme Kai refinement technique. He contemplates the technique's two difficult requirements, repeating the cultivation process to Golden Core 36 times and comprehending its vague guidance on his own. He feels the first part might be possible with his special Aperture, but worries his poor comprehension is a death sentence. Nevertheless, he resolves to try for his senior sister's sake and begins to cultivate, only to realize she has already left. Just then, Su Changyu appears, greeting him. Yiping happily welcomes him back, and Su Changyu asks if he's been lazy. Yiping explains that his senior sister was just giving him guidance, which shocks Su Changyu. He asks if she was in seclusion, and Yiping clarifies she already left, making Su Changyu realize it was an illusion. He scolds Yiping for not speaking clearly, and Yiping asks if he's afraid of their senior sister. Su Changyu nervously denies it, claiming he saw a cockroach, which Yiping finds even more embarrassing. Su Changyu admits their senior sister has genuine skills and tells Yiping to learn from her, then awkwardly changes the subject to the scenery. Internally, he agonizes over how to ask a junior for something, but remembering his ordeal in the mountains, he decides his life is more important than his pride and steels himself. He hesitantly asks Yiping if he happened to create any paintings or poems while he was away. Yiping confirms he made two, and Su Changyu internally celebrates his success with a fist pump. Su Changyu asks where the paintings are. Yiping explains one is at home, and he gave the other to their second senior brother, Zhu Liuchen, offering to fetch one for Su Changyu. Su Changyu quickly refuses, laughing it off as mere curiosity, though he's inwardly relieved Liuchen got one. He pats Yiping's shoulder, notes his sturdier build, and prepares to leave. Yiping credits the primordial god-demon body refining art his senior brother gave him, leaving Su Changyu momentarily speechless. Su Changyu flies away, internally screaming in disbelief that Yiping actually cultivated a cheap street manual he himself couldn't even master the authentic version of. He declares he quits, sits down dejectedly, and tells himself to focus on the sect's future. He hopes Liuchen won't make the same mistake with the art, reassuring himself that Liuchen is more composed and would respect the artist's intent. He arrives at Liuchen's door and calls for him. Finding it strange that the disciplined Liuchen is still inside in the afternoon, he enters. Liuchen greets him dramatically and lunges at him, declaring he finally understands him. Su Changyu is terrified, but Luochen clarifies that he understands why he sits by the cliff every night. He too has realized that their new junior brother is a super genius, shattering his own Dao heart. Su Changyu calms down as Luochen explains he became emotional. Luochen excitedly reveals that Yi Ping made a painting for him and proudly displays it. He points to an inscription, saying only his senior brother would understand the sorrow it conveys, but the inscription is signed by Zhu Luochen himself. Su Changyu stares in horror as Luochen eagerly awaits praise. Su Changyu examines the painting, seeing that not only did Luochen write his own poem on it, but he made corrections and wrote it sideways across the art. Internally panicking at the desecration, Su Changyu listens as Luochen urges him to judge it harshly. Suddenly, Su Changyu's power erupts. Luochen asks what he is doing, and Su Changyu screams the question back at him. When Luochen accuses him of being jealous, Su Changyu starts beating him mercilessly. He yells that he could tolerate him writing his own poem, even scribbling on it, but signing his own name utterly ruined everything. He furiously asks who Luochen thinks he is, calling him a spendthrift for flushing priceless techniques down the drain. As the beating continues, Su Changyu declares he's doing it for them. A bruised Luochen lies on the ground, vowing that it isn't over. Su Changyu fumes in his residence over a complete waste, muttering that the mere thought of it hurts his heart and makes him want to beat that brat up again. He decides to let it go, but resolves that his master must never find out, fearing that Luochen might not live to see tomorrow given their master's attitude toward money. He plans to swear that his junior brother never gave him anything, only for his junior sister to appear and ask what happened between him and their second senior brother. She informs him that she saw Luochen crying and running to their master's place to file a complaint. Su Changyu is shocked, then sighs in resignation, muttering that Luochen brought this on himself. At Taehua Daoist's residence, a bruised Luochen pounds on the door, crying for his master and claiming he was almost beaten to death. The master, Taehua Daoist, opens the door and asks what happened to him. Luochen tearfully begs his master to stand up for him, and Taehua Daoist invites him inside to talk. Luochen claims his senior brother, Su Changyu, was jealous of his poetic talent and beat him. Taehua Daoist expresses his doubts, noting that he's never heard of Luochen having any talent in poetry and that Changyu is not a bully. Luochen, incensed, warns that if Changyu can bully him today, he might beat the master tomorrow. After calming him down, Taehua Daoist learns that Changyu allegedly beat Luochen after glancing at a portrait, which Luochen now presents as evidence. As Taehua Daoist unrolls the scroll, his expression becomes dark and menacing. He asks if Luochen wrote the poem himself, and Luochen proudly confirms it. The master's face contorts with rage as he notes the scratch marks and the signature, making Luochen realize that something is wrong as his master's reaction mirrors Su Changyu's. With his face cloaked in shadow and his eyes glowing, Taehua Daoist asks Luochen to confirm one last time that he wrote the poem. After Luochen confidently agrees, the master ominously states that he is just worried the subsequent noise will be too loud, and that now no one will come to save him. With glowing red eyes, the master advances on a terrified Luochen, and for the next quarter hour, the sounds of a brutal beating echo from the residence. Afterward, Luochen lies in a bloody heap on the floor. Taehua Daoist, looking demonic, furiously berates Luochen, revealing that over a few dozen taels of silver worth of herbs, he and Su Changyu were almost captured and violated by a male bear demon, and he still needs to vent more of his anger. As he raises his fist again, Su Changyu appears, telling the master to stop before he kills Luochen. Taehua Daoist, restrained by Changyu, screams that Luochen has no idea what they went through. Su Changyu interrupts to announce that their little junior brother has sent another valuable painting over. Stunned, the master asks if he's serious, and Changyu presents a new scroll, saying it's a pure landscape painting. He explains that their junior brother thought he liked his art and sent another one. Overcome with emotion, Taehua Daoist clutches the new painting, tears streaming down his face as he calls the new disciple reliable and too good of a person. The two celebrate, realizing this painting secures their disciples' futures by allowing them to afford top-grade cultivation techniques, while their junior sister watches on, thinking they are all crazy. Taehua Daoist decides to let the matter with Luochen go, warning him never to tamper with the priceless paintings again, but Luochen furiously refuses to drop the issue. He screams for a believable explanation as to how a painting could be worth so much, accusing his master of being biased towards Su Changyu. As Su Changyu tries to calm him down, Luochen tells him not to pretend to be a good person, insisting the matter of his beating is not resolved. He proposes a bet. If the painting is truly valuable, he will slap his own face crooked, Otherwise, they must let him hit them back. After an unimpressed glance between the master and Su Changyu, the master agrees and the three head down the mountain. As they walk into the sunset, their shadows stretch long, with a narrator noting that a calm face was frozen in the past. 7 days later, Su Changyu and his master walk through Alao Forest, with Changyu nervously asking if there are any demon beasts. The master reassures him, and they both grin thinking about their gains, marveling that a single painting from their junior brother could fund techniques for the entire sect. Suddenly, a pink-haired woman greets Taehua junior brother, mockingly noting how shabby he still looks. Taehua Taoist grits his teeth as the woman sarcastically asks if they are also going to the Sword Dao tournament, before remembering their sect is too low-ranked. She laughs that their sect might be dissolved soon and insults him as useless trash. She then turns to Su Changyu, questioning the use of his pretty face and calling him an embarrassing, useless disciple. Su Changyu smirks and retorts that being ugly like her must make one stronger, immediately earning a furious scream before he slaps her across the face. After being struck down, Su Changyu looks up to see the woman standing over him, vowing to teach him manners herself. Taehua Taoist attacks her, yelling that his disciple isn't for her to discipline, but she effortlessly blocks his flurry of blows. She counters with a punch radiating dark purple energy, creating a massive explosion. She stands over the defeated Taehua Taoist, choking him and remarking on his lack of improvement. As she prepares a finishing blow, one of her followers restrains Su Changyu, telling him not to move. The woman decides not to ruin her future by killing Trash and instead challenges him to bring his disciple to the tournament for revenge. She vows her disciple will kill his in the arena, then leaves with her entourage. Later, Taehua Taoist looks over the unconscious Su Changyu, lamenting the suffering he has caused him. Once awake, Su Changyu yells at his master to stop sighing and heal him instead. After his master threatens to expel him, Su Changyu calmly announces he has decided to participate in the Kingzhu Sword Dao tournament. His master is shocked, telling him not to act on impulse over a petty woman from his past. Su Changyu clarifies it's not because of her, but because of their little junior brother. He explains that meeting a true genius has shown him the vast gap in their abilities and inspired him to try harder. He declares the tournament will be a pledge to himself, hoping to at least make the top 500. Meanwhile, at Yiping's residence, he unleashes a massive burst of energy, having finally reached the second layer of Kai refining, and marvels at its power. Deciding to rest, he doesn't notice his senior sister hiding nearby, hoping to learn from his authentic sword marks to break through her own technique. Yiping then notices the pirated book his brother gave him lying on the ground. Later that night on a cliff, Luo Chen is moping when an excited Su Changyu greets him. Luo Chen is confused by his brother's good mood, thinking he was supposed to be depressed too. He watches as Su Changyu throws his arms to the sky in ecstasy, concluding his brother is insane. From afar, 2 other disciples watch them, calling them chaotic gremlins, and noting that the youngest sister is the only reliable successor left. 3 days later, Taehua Taoist gives Su Changyu a registration pass for the tournament, revealing he has signed up both him and Yiping. Su Changyu panics, screaming that he was only pretending to be determined. The master reminds him that faking a registration is illegal, and when Changyu demands he cancel it, the master says it's impossible and tells him to just participate. Yiping is shocked to learn he will be in the tournament, worrying that he will be embarrassed if he loses. His master gives him a rousing speech about how a cultivator must face challenges to temper his Dao heart, secretly pleased with his own bullshitting skills. Fully inspired, Yiping vows to do his best, crediting the gentle breeze opportunity from his senior brother, which leaves the master confused. Yiping runs off to prepare, and the master decides to notify Muxu to ensure Yiping has backing during the tournament. Elsewhere, the pink-haired woman addresses her disciples, telling them to secure a good rank for the sect's future. When one disciple boasts it will be easy, she calls him a fool, revealing that Kingzhu has hidden sects like the legendary Great Sun Sword Sect. She explains that a branch of this powerful lineage is secretly dormant in Kingzhu, waiting to rise again. She asks her now worried disciples if they truly believe they can win against such a hidden power.